Happy Monday. I have a question today from Cathy. Cathy says that when she hears a person, there's a particular person Cathy knows, and when she hears this woman start speaking, she is taken over by anger. She says she just feels angry and resentful and thinks this person is totally insensitive, and a whole lot of stuff shows up for Cathy. And she says, it would be a huge insight if I could see this differently and allow emotions that my mind says are not okay to just be. My mind says I'm a terrible person for feeling angry. Getting comfortable with the uncomfortable is my hope. I love that that's your hope, Cathy, because that's exactly where I want you to look. I'd love to hear you talk about anger and or resentment from this understanding. So thank you so much, Cathy, for sending this question. And, you know, I love that you see that so much of the angst and pain and suffering in this is your mind saying, innocently saying, this is not okay. I should not feel this way. These feelings are not okay. What's wrong with me? What kind of person am I to feel all of this anger? It's it's so understandable, that we hold ourselves to very high standards. We don't like to feel uncomfortable or bad in any way. And I don't think anyone likes to think of themselves as an angry person or a judgmental person or a person who's impatient with others. I mean, no one likes to think of themselves that way. So in a sense, what's happening is your mind, you feel all this stuff when this person starts speaking or toward this person, and your mind says, oh, this is about you and it means something about you and it's bad. And of course you're going to suffer, you're going to feel a lot of pain when that's the case. But let's back this up a little bit and really see what's happening. So, Cathy, in some way, when this person speaks and you feel this flood of anger and impatience and resentment move through you, you know this, but what you're feeling has nothing to do really with that other person. What's going on is our minds, our kind of ego mind, if you want to put it that way, is really sensitive. It gets bumps and bruises. It thinks it's really sensitive. So it's like, stuff has happened through our life, and our mind wants us to feel safe and secure and confident. So it tends to be on the lookout for anything that threatens that, anything that feels like it has the potential to threaten that. So somewhere along the way, many, many times along the way in our lives, we come across certain people or things that feel threatening to us. They aren't truly threatening to us, but to our mind, it's like, oh no, this is bad and that person and stay away from this. Like it just feels threatening. I've talked about this many in different ways, but it's like something happens to where we get scared or our identity is threatened. And that doesn't mean anything bad about you. It just means you're a human being. We all have ego minds and identities that our mind has created, and they truly are just mind created identities. And they act as if they're pretty fragile. They're just made of thought. There's not much to them, but they feel very fragile. And so anytime they feel threatened, our mind, because it loves us so much, will jump in and try to protect it. So we don't need to know, we don't need to guess where this all started with you or where it all started with anyone, because we all have things like this, right? Where something happens and we just have this extreme reaction. And in the back of our minds, we know it's not the thing that's happening. It's not that woman talking that does this to you. You know that. For all of us, we know it's like, whoa, this is not about that. But this extreme reaction comes up and it kind of attaches itself to someone else or what's happening out in the world. And we think, man, what is wrong with me? Why am I acting this way? I love to look at it this way as our mind created these protection strategies long, long ago, and that's what pushes our buttons so much. Because if you think about it, I mean that means that our extreme reactions, even though they're uncomfortable and they're extreme and they're unfair to the people we're around, they're so rational. They're so logical. They're built and based around a system that is so intelligent. that is so loving, really. It is your mind saying, "Hey, you're okay. You're okay. You've at one point we think we are all these traits and qualities and all of this stuff that is pretty fragile because there's not anything really to it. It's made up. So our mind is to come in and say, "Oh, no, you're okay. You're okay. This is who you are and no one can hurt that." And it comes up with all of these ideas and judgments to keep us safe. So being able to kind of see it in that bigger picture, like, oh, this is just what my mind's doing as a response to something so long ago and old, to help me feel okay. It can kind of shine a different sort of light on it. It can help you see this has nothing to do with you being an impatient or judgmental person or any of that. It shows up in a way where it's easy to interpret it that way. But these feelings that show up, this anger that shows up, you aren't making that happen, Kathy. You don't want that. You're not making it happen. And it truly doesn't mean anything about you, who you really are as a person. If anything, it reflects some idea that your mind came up with, and needs to protect against from long, long ago. So it's so empowering to be able to be in this place where we can notice this huge tidal wave of feeling move through us and have that tidal wave of feeling be that pointer back that says, whoa, something's not quite right here. And not in a bigger sense of feeling is fine, everything's okay, but what it's showing, it's getting your attention. It's showing you, whoa, when I have this much big extreme emotion towards someone, that's not about what's actually happening here at all. My mind is just trying to protect me from something I don't even know what it is, but I don't need it. So you get to kind of be in this place where you see, okay, naturally, this is how I think of it for myself. Like, I love everyone all the time. I just don't feel that. I just don't feel like I love everyone all the time. So, and that's everything we talk about here. It's like by default, of course, we're all peaceful by default. We love everyone by default. We're all connected by default. We're incredibly loving and non-judgmental by nature, by default. So what that means is when we're feeling opposite from that, when we're feeling judgmental or not at peace or like we don't love someone, it hurts because it's the distance between ourselves and what our mind is creating. It hurts and it gets our attention to wake us up, to show us, whoa, you're in a big ego story right now, but don't worry, it'll pass. Just don't pin it on that other person. Don't pin it back on yourself. Again, your mind will, but this is what we get to see. Oh, it's not about anything that's real or true. What's real and true is that I love everyone. You love everyone. What's artificial and showing up temporarily in that moment is the opposite of that. And that's why it feels so big and jarring. So even when you're judging yourself, Kathy, when you're judging her, the fact that that doesn't feel good shows you that that isn't who you are. And I don't know, something about just being in that space with it, like, oh, here's just another part of this human illusion, another part of this human experience where I feel all this stuff, but I know that's not who I am, it's not who they are. And I think it softens it so much. It gives you space to just kind of let it move through. Have compassion for yourself first and foremost, because that's what's really making this hurt so badly, is that you're judging yourself for it. Is having that understanding that this is your mind doing the best it can see to do to protect you. Having that patience and compassion for yourself because you're not putting your feelings there. They're just moving through. Then hopefully you get to navigate it in a much easier way. So I hope that's helpful for you, Kathy, for everyone. Thanks so much for sending your question. And if you guys have questions about anything, any emotions, thoughts, feelings, our ego mind, who we really are in that default state, anything at all, send them to askamy@thelittleschoolofbigchange.com, and I'll be back here on Monday to speak to them. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great week.